Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. In this daily editorial, I am getting an update from Lion One Metals, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol LIO, on the OTCQX under the symbol LOMLF, and on the ASX under the symbol LLO. I am chatting again with Patrick Hickey, Chief Operating Officer, as well as Quinton Hennigh, Technical Advisor at Lion One. Now, guys, a number of questions have come in over the holiday season asking for more an operations update, as well as some more updates on the ongoing drilling, especially the grade control drilling. Some questions on exploration too, but we will get to as many questions as possible. Patrick, we're going to start off with you for the update on operations at the pilot plant. I know we can't talk actual production numbers or even in terms of all-in sustaining costs because it is so early on and this is still a pilot plant, but let's talk about some of the stages of expansion. The first and foremost stage of expansion to 500 tons per day. I know when we've talked about this, you've outlined that should come more in the, let's say, mid to later part of summer. Talk to us about any changes in the expansion plans to 500 tons per day, please.
Okay, well, first of all, the 300 ton per day, the pilot plant, we did the first pour on the 10th of October, and we ran for a week or two and got some information, decided to make some changes, so we shut it down for a week or two and made those changes, and it's been essentially at 300 tons plus ever since. So it ramped up a lot faster than we had expected, and which is a good thing. And we've had pretty good success on recoveries and things like that. But again, with a pilot plant, you're always trying to move and adjust and change things around. So on the plant side, for the 300 ton, I don't see any issues. The next step is the 500 tons per day. And we'll take it to the 500 tons per day target is the end of August. And that includes the addition of a tower mill and some flotation cells. I don't see any challenges with that. Everything is on order, and the construction guys are already doing the civil works for it, so I don't see any challenges there. And we've mentioned this before, that we have a crushing system, primary and secondary crusher, are designed for 1,200 tons a day, and we'll see what happens after that. But right now, our goal is to get to the 500 tons per day by August, and then target the development of the decline so we can get to the 500 zone by mid-2025.
Now, is there any other guidance in terms of expansion past that 500 tons per day? You've mentioned 1,200 tons per day, but is there going to be a stepping stone? Is there any more information you can give us on that further expansion front?
The only thing I would say around that, we've never said anything publicly beyond that 500 tons a day, but the only thing I can say is more is always better, right? And, I have yet to meet a mine investor that doesn't want more. So we're trying to set ourselves up so that we can do that. Our portal, the decline is 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters. That allows us to machine mine when we hit parts of the ore body that are machine mineable. And it also gives us that optionality to use jack legs in the smaller, narrower, high grade zones. So we want to keep our optionality open while we advance that decline.
Can you give us some more information then on the progress of that underground development, of the decline, or even moving into your first stope?
Well, before we get into that, there's one thing I want to talk about that I think a lot of people miss. There is so much to getting a new mine operational and going. There's things like the organization, and I've mentioned this before, IT, supply chain, the ERP system, and all the legal and land and all these stuff that goes around that, and hiring. Big mining companies that hire thousands of people might not appreciate this, but we went from 50 employees a year and a half ago to 400 employees now, and they're all fully engaged. The org chart is filled, and the whole mine is running the way it should run, which is a really good success story for us as a company. And then back on your question about the decline development, we're just under 100 meters a week. We have 2 twin jumbos, all the equipment that you need to do that. It's always nice to have more equipment, but we're trying to balance between production costs and capital and all those things. It's the age-old story about, starting up a small mine.
Now, in terms of the different zones throughout this asset here, we talk a lot about these different zones when it comes to grade control drilling, but Can you remind everybody where right now you're pulling material from in terms of zone numbers?
Well, Quinton's the expert on this, but we have zone 2 and 5, the upper zones, that have proven out to be bigger than what we had originally assumed in the model. But I'll give you an example. We got to our first stope just a few weeks ago, and it came in not too far off from what the model said it would be. So that was a good sign. And our target now is to get, in the next 2 or 3 months, to get to some more higher grade stopes and really start pulling this thing into production. So that's what we're trying to do right now.
Quinton, let's get you in here just for a quick comment on these different zones. We've talked about a wide range of them, and you've included figures within the news releases, but is there a way that investors or those looking at this story can simplify these different zones and the progress in terms of mining, even in terms of exploration through each one of them?
Yeah, Corey, look, right now, the mine and the current development is focused on the upper part of the lode system. But like Patrick said a minute ago, one of the keys of developing this thing further is going to be to put a decline down to get into that 500 zone. As we know, that's the higher grade probable route. But right now, they're focused on a couple of lodes in the upper part of the system. Okay, they kind of you'll see names jostled around, but basically they now refer to zone 5, and I believe zone 2 is the other focus at this time. Okay, now what are we talking about? Well, think of this lode system as a book that's partially open. Okay, and the hinge of the book is kind of in the southwest corner of the lode system. So you kind of see all the lodes converge there. And as you go away from the hinge of the book, you see like each page of the book as it spreads out represents a different lode. Okay, so in this case, we're dealing with the URW loads, so the UR West loads, as they're referred to. But there's also the main UR loads. The URW loads go north-south. The UR loads proper progressively trend more to the northeast as you sweep across the open book. So they're finding more loads as they drill. They've got a lot of drilling that we'll say is outside of the current mine plan that's hitting further loads or further extensions of existing loads that weren't previously recognized. But they're focused right now on the UR1, UR2, UR3, and then the URW2A and URW3 loads. These are the pages of the books, if you will. There's also some work on the UR4 and UR8 loads. So it's a multiple load system, and they're tackling the upper part of it first. Each one of these pages is effectively part of that zone 5 area. That's the target of the immediate development and ultimate production for this pilot mine.
All right, Patrick, another question regarding operations deals with plant capacity. Can you give us an update on the utilization of the plant currently?
I don't have the percentages right at the tip of my finger, but for a startup, it's doing really, really well. I mean, we've chewed through all the stockpile that we had. So that's a good sign.
Now, when will we get any production data in terms of costs, in terms of production, really anything that is a bit more concrete in terms of numbers here?
With probably the first quarterly report that comes out, either fourth quarter or first quarter. I'm not sure how they're planning on doing that.
Okay. Quinton, let's talk about this grade control drilling and a news release from back in the middle of December 13th. The headline number from this grade control drilling was almost 2,000 grams per ton gold, and another result of over 800 grams per ton gold. A lot of these, I believe, came from zone 5. So again, more of this infill, grade control drilling, these ultra high grades. What are they telling you? What should we take note of here?
Well, all of these, in fact, even the headline of the news release, if you look at the subtitle there, it says Bonanza grade gold intersected outside current mine plan. Okay, so these drill holes were drilled in areas where there currently is no plan to go develop stopes, that ore can be drawn from. These are instant wins for the company. They basically show that there's very high grade, in some cases extensions to known loads that now will likely pull more stopes. In other words, they'll be able to mine into these areas where they've hit these very, very high grades, or they've even hit some new lodes. These are previously unrecognized lodes that they encountered in drilling as they were targeting known existing lodes. And again, those will add more, we'll say, stopes or more loads to the system that or can be derived from. Now, it's very typical of these alkaline systems to behave this way. The gold along the load zones is erratically distributed, and you can literally drill, several holes that hit, lower grades, and then hit one that hits very high grade within a short distance. And it's those high grade ones you got to pay attention to because they're really trying to tell you something, especially when you see nearly 2,000 grams per ton gold in an intercept. Okay, that's in an area where, yeah, previously, no, there was no plans to go develop that. But now we know for a fact there's some very high grade fractures that have gold in there. You think we're going to go in and look at it? Absolutely. Okay, that's going to pull us into those areas. So ultimately, it's going to mean very, very good outcome for the project. I think we'll see a lot more ore up in the higher part of the system. But again, they are going to start ramping down. Patrick is working on that right now to access the deeper part of the system, 500 zone in particular, where we know there's a deep-rooted high-grade feeder.
So when you see some of these high grades outside of the current mine plan, as you said, it warrants follow-up, could even change the type of material you bring in here. What other work needs to be done then? Is it simply more drilling, or do you actually get in there and start taking out some of that material?
If you find grades like this on loads that you're already planning to develop, you're probably going to push your drives along those loads and explore these extensions. I mean, they're relatively easy to get to, and you're going to go out there and see what's actually there. So yes, it's these give us a good target to go chase for potential ore. It's very simple. As far as what comes in the future, look, I've said this a few times now. A mine like this, you're going to see ongoing drilling like this, infill and really almost quasi exploration level drilling around these lodes on an ongoing basis for the foreseeable future. It's just part and parcel of how you operate a mine like this. You're always looking for that next extension or next stope you can develop and things like this.
How do you progress with this grade control drilling into these other zones, since there are a number of them and it seems like you're still fairly high up in the system?
Like there's two ways to get answers out of the rock. One way is to drill it, one way is to drift on it. Okay. In both cases, you're gonna get an answer, definitive answer.
Patrick, from the mining front and the operations front, then, as you work through some of this grade control drilling, you're focused on making sure the plant's running properly, running through the material that you have. What excites you about any of this grade control drilling?
Well, some of the numbers are quite impressive, but it's about breadth of those numbers and finding the places where you have that nice consistency where you can pull tons of ore and keep developing and producing it to the mine. And that's what we're targeting. And, keep in mind as well, Quinton's saying, when you find a high grade pop, you go after it. And with the handheld mining, we can go after it pretty easily. But there's also some challenges in that we want to be targeted on that 500 zone, and we don't want to lose focus on that. So we do chase some of these things as we get to them, but we don't change the entire mine plan to go chase a dream, right? The real target is that 500.
Now, when will you be down in that 500 zone? Is there a general time frame on that? Does that tie in to the plant expansion? How does that all fit together here, Patrick?
Mid-2025 is what we've always said that we'd be there.
Okay. This has addressed a number of the questions that have come in. And again, we can't talk about, and I can't ask the guys about specific numbers because those are not out to the market yet. They're still working through them. So I will continue to follow up with the team at Lion One to answer any of your questions. Please keep sending me your questions because this is an ongoing story where clearly a lot of our listeners are paying attention and are very interested to learn how this pilot plant is operating and the expansion of this mining or test mining that is ongoing, as well as, again, all these grade control drill results, how they filter into the overall mine plan. So please keep on sending me your questions. And Quinton, Patrick, thank you very much for taking time today in different parts of the world to answer these questions. I'm sure we'll be chatting again soon. So, guys, again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a